Distribution isn't the problem for Regenatec. They still can't find a big enough supply of oil. And without plant oil, their diesel converter is absolutely useless. They're running out of time. They've got to get back to Britain at the end of the week.
The reality is, no matter what happens, we are going to have fairly small volumes for the first 12 months, probably the first 36 months.
I think the theory of what you're trying to do is fantastic. And I think it might just work. But from what I've seen, it doesn't sound like it's going to work in India.
When we get to Friday, we as a group will have made a decision whether we feel that we should be involved or whether we shouldn't be involved, whether there is a business or whether there isn't.
And that decision could be make or break for Regenatec's ambitions in India. Nick and Giles need to ask themselves exactly the same question. Is there a business for them in India? The Indians prefer gold to stainless steel. The time with the Indian red arrows looks like a non-starter. And people expect huge discounts. And the taxes, they're seriously painful.
I mean, it's far more complex, basically, than we originally thought. It's not a, back of the fag pack calculation anymore. It's very kindly we're given the breakdown of all the duties today, line by line, and it's literally
district by district.
Six or seven different taxes, and it's pretty horrendous.
It's when they ended up with this SAD tax. It's called SAD tax, and I have no idea what it is, but it's a SAD tax.
It's a SAD tax.
Could you ever have got the information and the research and the feel for this market without coming here?
Never.
We've learned a real lesson, is that sitting at home doing your research, it only just covers a part of it. And coming out here, us focusing on a short period of time, really understanding the market, is just totally invaluable.
What about Marmite? Well, Cheryl's discovered that the Indians do quite like it as a food flavouring. But how is she going to market it here?
What is the strategy?
So for me, the strategy, and I haven't thought it through fully in terms of the words, but the strategy is it's a cooking ingredient, it's a flavour enhancer, position it as such, and actually the proposition of Marmite as a healthy, nutritious product, brilliant proposition.
If your research here showed you that it wasn't for India, were you always prepared to go back and say, guys, we gave it our best shot and it didn't work?
Yes. Hell yeah. If we came out here and we spent a week here with the people we've spoken to and the consumers we've spoken to and the agencies, and it wasn't working, there's no point force-fitting something. That's not the right thing to do with Marmite.
What about that magic thing, profit? Where does that come into it?
If we invest what we need to invest to make this a business, we're not going to make a profit on this for, I would say, at least 3 years.
Let's assume that you do put that effort, time and money and those expectations behind the brand, and in 3 years' time, it hasn't worked. From a personal perspective, how would you feel?
I'd feel personally responsible, and I'd feel like, from what I've seen this week, I feel like I got something very wrong. I'd be absolutely gutted.
And I'm a bit gutted about leaving India. A wonderful country to visit, but as we found out, not an easy one to do business in. So it's time for our venture capitalists to go back to Blighty and do some serious thinking.
So our companies are back home now. It's going to be really interesting to see what have they really learned from their adventures.
Green Oilmen Regenatec went to India to sell their diesel converter. But the real challenge wasn't flogging the gizmo itself, it was finding a reliable source of plant oil. The oil needs to tick 3 boxes: quantity, quality, and most important of all, price.
What were your views of the trip?
We do think there's very definitely a business there. We're fairly confident, very confident there's a business there.
What was your view after coming back?
It was good to have my assumptions confirmed and vindicated by Bill and Kevin going out there. I always believed India was a huge opportunity.
Well, hold on. That's not what I just heard. His assumptions were confirmed and vindicated?
He believes there's sufficient evidence there to pursue further, rather than, you're completely mad, Mike, what the hell were you talking about?
But your challenge was to make it competitive as diesel and not make assumptions, because assumptions is what kills companies.
But that's not the business that we're working on. What we're working on is just based on today's prices, not some future projection. On today's prices.
Today's prices. That's exactly what I want to hear.
Good. On today's prices, we can crush seeds, produce oil, and still deliver oil at or marginally below diesel prices and make a profit.
OK, well, that's fabulous, because that's not what we saw when we were there. That's why I'm a little bit confused. And at the end of the day, your whole business plan will have to depend on the fact that you can do that. Yeah. But that's not what we saw. And that was a challenge that, when I left you, that's the challenge that you had. Yeah. And have you managed to actually overcome that problem and meet that challenge?
At this stage, yes, we think we have. There are small volumes of oil there that can compete. The question is, are the large volumes of oil there that can compete versus that diesel price?
If you can find a small handful of premium customers willing to work with you, that allows you to establish a base to then address the more cost-conscious market.
Bill and I would view that slightly differently.
Not sure that's right.
Yeah, Bill and I would view that slightly
Well, that's how I
differently.
started the business, and that's how I funded the business.
Yeah, but
I found premium customers paying me up to 20% over the price of diesel.
But you don't own the business anymore. There's an answer.
No, I don't.
To that. There's an answer to that.
But the business would have gone bust a dance like quicker had I not had premium customers. It's true.
I don't think there's any question that Mike actually has developed a very clever, very simple product. His problem has been from the day that he developed it, he never really understood how to make it into a money-making opportunity. I'm pretty sure that both Kevin and Bill, who are successful business people, understand the rules of business. What I question is, do they actually understand the product and its dynamics yet? I'm pretty confident they will get there. But it's how much money will they burn on the way.
Cheers.
Bremont's Nick and Giles were on a fact-finding mission. Was there a market in India for their very English watches?
So what were the things you discovered while you were out there that you didn't know beforehand?
Certainly, the whole business model is very, very, very different out there. And we learned that retailers are selling a lot of popular brands out there, but making a few dollars per watch.
Very different mentality, and you can't grow a long-term retail business by doing that.
But we have to be global, so we can't just ignore a market like India. It's something with huge, huge potential, which is very, very exciting. So it's what scale we go into.
What's the financial business plan look like?
Plan is to try and get into, go into literally a couple of locations, which will probably take you to the next 2 years, and then see how growth goes. So certainly dip our toe in the market.
Last of all, Cheryl and David went to India to find out if the Indians loved or hated Marmite.
Do you want to try and try this for us?
Let's just say it wasn't a roaring success.
It's a no.
Cheryl realised she had to adapt her product, and she did, as a food flavouring. When I left her, Cheryl was convinced that Marmite could work in India.
So, is Marmite going to India?
We're going to go.
Yeah,
we're going to go, and we're going to give it a go.
Going to do business in other countries about a lot of money invested in marketing and letting people know that you're actually there. I mean, what sort of costs are we talking about?
I think we're talking about something around $500,000 investment over the next few years to get the brand established in India.
Cheryl, what will it mean for you for Marmite to be successful in India?
It would be amazing. I think the thing that would be amazing is you never, or extremely rarely as a marketer, get in your life to create from scratch a brand new brand. We went to India and we said, have you heard of this brand Marmite? And they went, no, never heard of it, no idea what it is it jam, is it chocolate? And the idea that you go in there and you go, right, I'm going to come in here with a product and I'm going to invent a whole new brand for you guys. And in 50 years or 100 years, it might be as important to you as it is to the UK. My God, that would be an incredible legacy.
Marmite is a classic case study. You've got a big organisation that understands brands, understands marketing, and has lots of cash. But all the cash in the world won't guarantee that your product hits the spot. The pure taste of Marmite certainly didn't. That gave Cheryl 3 choices. 1, to say forget it, go back home. 2, to make the common mistake people make
and not listen to the research, and persevere with launching the brand in India as a spread for toast in the morning. Alternatively, adapt her product.
And that's exactly what she did. And it looks like it was the right call.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
No amount of research on the internet can replace the experience of visiting the country itself. Now, when you get there, of course, you might not like what you hear or see. If you ignore it, you could be in serious trouble. If you take it on board and adapt, you could be a big success, and the world could be your oyster.